Good evening, everyone. I am going to wait another couple of minutes for more people to jump on tonight, so bear with me.
And on my end, you might see a cat or two running around the background. You know,
Keep it interesting, right?
exactly.
You have two, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
One. I have
I,
one too that is I closed the door, so she's not otherwise she would be up here too.
I can't close doors because if I did, all you would hear and see is cats trying to get in the room because they do not like closed doors. You'd see cat paws under the door and
Those are fun. Yeah, I think my husband's out there eating, so she's probably staring him down while he's having a bowl of chili.
as long as I talk, then usually they stay away. If I'm
Oh,
quiet for a while, that's when they show up
that's funny.
because they think, "Oh, she's done."
Well, I'm going to go ahead and we'll get started. I know we've got a few more people registered who will hopefully join us in the next couple of minutes. Welcome everyone to our program tonight on the Great North American Eclipse, which is going to be happening in a few weeks for us. Always excited to have Michelle Nichols back to present programs for us. Um, she's done a few things for us in the past on astronomy, and they're always very interesting talks, and I learn a whole lot. So it's a pleasure to have you back tonight with us, Michelle. And before I turn it over to her, I do want to let you know we are recording tonight's session. So we'll put that up on our YouTube channel by hopefully Wednesday or Thursday this week if you need to rewatch any of it. We are also giving out Eclipse glasses to those of you who are tuned in tonight. Those will be available at the information desk. Just stop by the desk and say you attended the Zoom program on Monday evening, and they will give you one pair per family. So, kind of as a thank you for coming, and shows that you obviously have an interest in what's happening in a few weeks. So, uh, we're happy to do that for our patrons. I think that's all I have as far as announcements. Oh, one more thing. You should have received in the mail if you live in the libraries district our latest newsletter, and that covers March, April, and May. Programming registration starts on March 1st, so hopefully there's some programs in there that you found interesting and will sign up for. So um, just another reminder about that. All right, Michelle. Oh, and if you have any questions tonight, type them in the Q&A, and Michelle will get to those at the end of tonight's program. All right. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us. I'll go ahead and
Thank you
turn
for
it over to
having
you.
me. Thank you, Valerie. And hello, everybody. I can't see or hear you, but I know you're out there. So, yes, during this talk, please do not wait until the end to type your questions in. As you think of them, go ahead and type them in the Q&A. Even if I end up answering your question later, that is totally fine. It's great to review answers to questions at the end. So that is a lot of fun. And just a tiny bit about myself. My title is Director of Public Observing at the Adler Planetarium. I've been there for almost 30 years, and I'm in charge of all the Adler's telescope and sky observing programs, and I run the observatory. So basically, anything having to do with looking at the sky, that's what I do. And yes, that really is a job, and it's a lot of fun. But programs like this, I do on my own time because I just really love talking to library audiences. Everyone is always so interested in various astronomy topics, and so it's really fun to talk to you about a very timely topic So the eclipse that's coming up on Monday, April 8th, 2024. And so the topic tonight is about that eclipse. First thing I'm going to talk about, though, is why these eclipses are relatively rare. Why you don't hear about them all that often, why solar eclipses are relatively rare. Then we're going to talk about what to expect during the next one. I'm going to guess that some of you are traveling or thinking about traveling to go see this eclipse where you're going to see the sun completely covered by the moon. So if anyone is traveling or thinking about traveling, if you could please in the Q&A just type where you're thinking of going. And then I'll be able to see where some of that is. Like I said, even if you're not totally set on where you're going, but you're thinking about it, just let me know at least the state where you're thinking about going. And then at the end, we will talk about some other resources. Oh, and I'm starting to see some posts in the Q&A, so I know a few of you are traveling, so that's fantastic. We'll talk about a couple resources that are going to come in really handy depending on where you are. So if you're going to be in Northern Illinois, great. If you're going to be traveling, great. I'll tell you where to go to get more useful information. And while I'm thinking about it, you'll see I'm looking upward at my camera right here. It's perched on top of my screen. If by some chance I happen to knock the camera off, please don't be startled. It's just sitting on top of my second screen right here. So apologies ahead of time if that happens. And it might happen if a cat decides to jump onto the desk. So anyway, with that, let's get started. All right. First thing, why do we not have a solar eclipse more often than we do? So on average, we get a couple of solar eclipses a year. And you're thinking to yourself, but I don't remember them happening that often. And you're right. We get a couple a year on average, but that's worldwide. That means that some part of Earth might see a solar eclipse. Not everybody's going to see it. You might see both of them. You might see one of them. You might see none of them. So, so definitely for any given location on Earth, solar eclipses are going to be relatively rare. Now, I'm going to start this video clip right here. So we've got in the middle the Earth, going around it the moon. And when the moon gets in between the Earth and the sun, if the moon passes in front of the sun, you get a solar eclipse. Simple as that. But the moon goes around the Earth every 29 and a half days. That's the cycle of moon phases that we get. The moon phase where we get solar eclipses is new moon. That's when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun. The moon phase where we get lunar eclipses, where the moon passes into the Earth's shadow, only happens at full moon. There is a lunar eclipse associated with this particular solar eclipse. I'm here to tell you, don't get too excited about it. I'll explain why in a few slides. But anyway, let's get this going. So why if we've got the moon in between the Earth and the sun, why don't we get a solar eclipse every single time the moon goes around the Earth every 29 and a half days? And it's pretty simple. The moon's orbit is tilted with respect to the Earth, about 5 degrees. And so normally when the moon gets in between the Earth and the sun, so the sun shines on the moon casts its shadow into space, the shadow misses the Earth. And it'll either pass in below the Earth or above it. But you can have the moon's orbit arranged over time. It'll happen where the shadow of the moon passes over the Earth. And when that happens, you get a solar eclipse if you're underneath the shadow at just the right time. And it's clear out, and you can actually see that. So that's why we don't get a solar eclipse all that often. Oops. All right. So this is going to be from a slightly different perspective. This animation was done for the 2017 eclipse. So I want to point out a couple of things in this particular animation. First off, we've got the sun shining on the moon. So the moon, the side that faces the sun at that point is the side that is on the other side of the moon from us. So the side we normally see is in shadow. So the dark side of the moon at new moon is the shadowed side. Now, when the sun shines on the moon and moon casts its shadow, the moon has two shadows, a darker inner shadow and a lighter outer shadow. The Earth does too. This is not exclusive to the moon. The sun is an extended object. The moon is an extended object. A combination of all of that means you get a darker inner shadow and a lighter outer one. Well, let's zoom in on this. What happens is the moon goes around the Earth, and as the moon moves, the shadow moves. So as the shadow passes over the Earth, if you're underneath that shadow at just the right time, you see the solar eclipse. Now, to see the moon 100% cover the sun, you need to be underneath the dark inner shadow. Notice how tiny that is. For the 2017 eclipse, that dark inner shadow was less than 80 miles wide. So that's the space that you needed to be under at just the right time. Even with that shadow moving over you at over 1,000 miles an hour, close to 2,000 miles an hour, it took at most about 2 minutes for that dark inner shadow to pass over those locations that are delineated by that orange colored path. And so that area, that dark inner shadow area, is where you get the phenomenon called totality, when the moon 100% covers the sun. It totally covers it. And the path of totality is if you take where that dark shadow passes over and you draw that out on a map, it looks like a path. And so, but you need to be in the right part of that path at just the right time in order to see totality. Those places don't all see it at the same time. You have to wait for the shadow to get to you. So if you notice, there's a yellow circle here on the outside. That's where the lighter outer shadow is. The closer you are to locations where you see the dark inner shadow, the closer you are to that, the more of the sun is covered by the moon. The farther you are from that, the less of the sun is covered by the moon. And if you are outside that lighter outer shadow, you don't see the eclipse at all. So this is something that people might not realize, that the whole moon shadow doesn't cover the whole Earth. You have to be under the right part of it at the right time. And it needs to be clear out for you to see the solar eclipse. So this is, while it's a phenomenon that does occur a couple times a year, we still say it's pretty rare because any given location isn't going to see it all that often. And even when you are in the right location, the Earth sometimes gets in the way. We sometimes have clouds. So it's something that we hope people might want to travel to. And I know there are 7 messages waiting for me in the Q&A with people who have indicated that they're traveling. So I'll get to your locations in just a little bit. So this animation is for the 2024 solar eclipse. So if you take a look at the colors, the red color in the middle, that circle is the dark inner shadow. Now, the moon's orbit around the Earth is not a perfect circle. So that means sometimes the moon is a little closer to the Earth, sometimes the moon is a little farther from the Earth. And if it's a little closer, the dark inner shadow part is a little bigger. If the moon is a little farther away, the dark inner shadow is a little smaller. So for 2017, that dark inner shadow was a little under 80 miles wide. For this next solar eclipse in April, the dark inner shadow is a little over 120 miles wide. So it is a little bit bigger. So what does that mean? It'll take a little bit longer for it to pass over the portions of Earth that are going to see that phenomenon. And so that means in 2017, totality lasted at most a little bit over 2 minutes in length. And in 2024, totality will last a little over 4 minutes in length at most. Not everybody will see it at that length, but that's about average. It'll be a little over 4 minutes in length. So you'll see this pass over southern Illinois and out toward the northeast. So the shadow is going to come up through Mexico or up through the Pacific Ocean and then through Mexico, and then through Texas, Arkansas, southern Illinois, Indiana, and out to locations to the northeast. So while we called the 2017 eclipse the Great American Eclipse, at least that name was trademarked because totality was only seen in the United States. This one, totality will include Mexico. And so we're calling it the Great North American Solar Eclipse. That's where that name came from. All right. And so I wanted to mention that first animation that I showed you, that was to scale. This is wildly not to scale. So this almost looks comical compared to that first animation I showed you with the moon going around the earth. But this is just another way of illustrating that the moon's shadow usually misses the earth, but when everything does line up just right a couple times a year, then you've got the opportunity for a solar eclipse to occur. And you've got the opportunity for a lunar eclipse to occur for the moon passing through the Earth's shadow at full moon. Now, the lunar eclipse isn't necessarily visible to the same locations that get to see the solar eclipse, but this next lunar eclipse will be visible to a bunch of places that are going to be able to see the solar eclipse. So this is a nice pairing for us. Except, well, let's go over what for lunar eclipses. We've got a few terms to talk about here. So this animation, also wildly not to scale, involves the Earth shadow and the lighter outer shadow, the darker inner shadow. Just like the moon, the lighter outer shadow is called the penumbra. That's the term you see on the screen. All right, that's the lighter outer one. The darker inner shadow is called the umbra. If you're wondering about those words, we use a lot of Latin and Greek in science, especially astronomy. Umbra comes from the same word where we get umbrella. It means to block, to shade. And so if the moon passes totally into that darkest inner shadow, that's when you get to see the moon turn that dark red color, brick red color, gray color, orange color, something to that effect. Now, we can have different versions of this eclipse. I'm going to move the time backward a little bit. If you've got the moon passing into some of the dark inner shadow, that's called a partial lunar eclipse. So we've got total lunar eclipse, partial lunar eclipse. And then there's another one called a penumbral lunar eclipse when the moon only passes into the lighter outer shadow. That can happen. Just because the moon's passing through the Earth's shadow doesn't mean it passes through the whole thing. Sometimes it only skims the outer edges. Well, I hate to say it. The lunar eclipse that's coming up the late in the evening on March 24th into the early morning of March 25th, it's only going to skim the lighter outer shadow. This is the greatest extent of that eclipse. So the moon is going to come into the lighter outer shadow and go right back out over the course of about 5 hours. And not even the whole moon will be within that lighter outer shadow. So some of it is just going to look like it normally does. I hate to say it, the rest of it is going to kind of look like it normally does. The next slide is going to show you images of what a typical penumbral lunar eclipse looks like. And this is why I'm telling you, you can sleep in on the evening of March 24th into the morning of March 25th. If you want to stay up and watch this, more power to you, no problem. But if you're expecting this eclipse to look like the ones where you see the brick red colored moon or anything like that, this is not one of those. So we get our next total lunar eclipse March of 2025. We get a partial lunar eclipse September 17th of 2024. We get this eclipse on March 24th into the early morning of March 25th. So at most, you might see some just slightly lighter shading at the top part of the moon. That's it. That's it. Or actually, in this case, it'd be the bottom part of the moon. So a portion of the moon will just look a little tiny bit darker than normal. If you don't know the eclipse is occurring, you probably wouldn't even notice it. You'd probably think, oh, wait, there's just a cloud or something up there. Well, no, it's actually the Earth's shadow. Why am I spending a bunch of time on this? Because I guarantee you will see clickbait articles between now and then online for folks going, lunar eclipse coming up. Don't miss it. It's going to be great. And they'll probably show some stock photo of a total lunar eclipse, but this is not a total lunar eclipse. This is a penumbral lightly shaded lunar eclipse. So that's why I'm bringing that up. All right, let's get back to the solar eclipse. So what to expect in Illinois? For the solar eclipse on Monday, April 8th, 2024. So this will be in the afternoon of April 8th, early afternoon. At its greatest extent, this is what you'll expect across the state of Illinois. So, quite a bit of coverage of the sun, more than we had for our area, more than we had in 2017. In 2017, in the Chicago area, 87% of the sun was covered by the moon. In 2024, 94%, 93 to 94%, depending on where you are, is of the sun is covered by the moon. And the farther south you go, the closer you get to areas where you get to then see the moon 100% cover the sun, the closer you get to that path, the more the sun is covered. Now, I'm here to tell you 99% coverage is not 100% coverage. So if you're thinking, oh, I've got family down in Springfield, close enough. No, not close enough. You got to get all the way into that path to be able to have a chance of seeing totality. Now, people get really jazzed about totality. So I'm going to show you some things of what to expect if you're going to either travel to totality areas where that are going to see it, or you might watch online because there will be lots and lots and lots of live eclipse coverage where you'll be able to see the eclipse probably multiple times over. So you'll be able to see what is coming up for folks in various places. So first thing I'm going to talk about though is what to expect in our area, because I know a bunch of you are probably not traveling and that is totally fine. So in our area, the times that you'll see on the screen are good for the Chicagoland area. If you're going to travel outside the Chicagoland area, so Chicago, suburbs, generally the Northeast Illinois area, Northwest, far Northwest Indiana, these times are good enough for that. If you're going to travel far outside of that, I'll show you a resource at the end of my talk where you can look up the timing for the eclipse for your specific location where you're going to be. But for our area, 12:51 p.m., the moon is going to just start to peek over the edge of the sun. It might take you a minute or so before you really start to notice it. And over the course of a little over an hour, the moon is going to slowly slide across the face of the sun till at about 2:07 p.m. The moon will cover the sun in our area at about 93, 94%, which is, like I said, more than we got in 2017. So that itself is impressive. That is something you don't see every day, for sure. And so then the moon continues to slide across, and then by 3:22, the eclipse is over. So over the course of about 2.5 hours is this particular eclipse. Something you can look for. If it is clear in our area, as long as the sun is covered by at least 50%, start to look for this phenomenon. I want you to look down at shadows on the ground, your shadow, a building shadow, a car shadow, a tree shadow, whatever. Look for shadows. And as the sun is covered more and more and more, look at the shadows. The edges of the shadows are going to get sharper. What you probably don't realize on any given day is how fuzzy edged our shadows are. Again, the sun is an extended object. You are an extended object. And so your shadow edges are pretty fuzzy normally. But when you stop down the amount of sun to just a sliver of it, the edges of our shadows get really sharp. And so I want you to check that out. Maybe take a picture of it every now and then, and see that over time. It's pretty interesting to see because it's definitely not something we see every day. You have to cover the sun by at least 50% before you even start noticing that phenomenon. Now, I'm going to show you a quick movie clip. And this is something that, for those of you traveling to totality, this is the start of a few slides of some phenomena that I want you to look for. The first one is called shadow bands, and we did see them in 2017. It's something, I'm going to start this movie clip here. It's something that is not seen for every solar eclipse. But what people do is they'll put a white sheet down on the ground, like a bed sheet. down on the ground, anchor the corners. And when the sun is covered up to at least, about a minute prior to totality, up to totality, and then maybe just after totality to maybe about a minute after totality, you start to see what you're starting to see on the screen. And I'm hoping this is coming through on your end. Do you notice the shimmery look? By the way, this is not sped up or anything. This is normal pace. If you're starting to see what looks like ripples across the screen, across that sheet, those are shadow bands. And they're really hard to photograph, really hard to video because they're faint. But what you're seeing is a sliver of sunlight shining through different temperatures and different densities of air above you. And that's creating ripples of light on the ground. And the reason this video is going to get darker is it was taken just prior to totality, and I think 2017. And so this is as totality is about to happen for this location. And you'll see the shadow bands even more. I guarantee you've seen this phenomenon in everyday life. If you've ever seen a pool and it's filled with water and you see the ripples of light from that are shining on the bottom of the pool, same thing. It's light shining through different densities, different temperatures of water in the pool. And so instead of a fluid pool with liquid water, you've got a fluid air above you. So if you're going to totality from about a minute prior to totality, up to totality, and then just after totality to about a minute after totality, look for those shadow bands. See if you can see them. Like I said, you may see them, you may not. Um, they're just not always visible. Another phenomenon, maybe about 4 seconds prior to totality, you get this phenomenon, which is called Bailey's beads. What's happening is the moon has almost completely covered the sun. Sun is just peeking through some taller mountains, deeper valleys on the edge of the moon, and you see these little tiny dots of light along the edge of the edge of the moon. Those are Bailey's beads, and they're named for a scientist with the last name of Bailey, and Baily apostrophe S, Bailey's beads. So again, knowing your exact timing for the solar eclipse for totality is helpful because, like I said, maybe about 3, 4 seconds prior to totality is when you'll see this phenomenon. Then you get to see totality. This is what everybody travels for. This is what they want to see. You see the shadowed side of the moon. That's the side facing us. And you see that whitish region around the moon. It may look like this, like you see it on the screen. It may be shaped differently, meaning that whitish area might have a different shape. That whitish area is called the corona, and that is the sun's outer atmosphere. It's always there. It's just that the bright part of our sun overpowers it and you can't see it. It's just not possible to do that unless the moon completely covers the sun during a total solar eclipse. And so once that happens, then the corona becomes visible. Even 1% of sun is too much bright sun. It'll overpower the corona. You won't see it. So if you've got friends or family who live at the 99% area, encourage them to travel those last few miles into the path of totality because they will not see this at 99%. It sounds like, oh yeah, 99%, only 1% of sun. Our sun is pretty bright, so that's why. But the word corona is Latin for crown, because that's what it looks like. And so it was named a couple hundred years ago before we actually knew what that region of the sun really is. The sky around the sun is fairly dark. It's not pitch black. It's fairly dark. The corona is about as bright as the full moon in the sky. So it'll kind of look like a full moon night. So full moon is occurring in a few days or so. If I think it's clear tonight, just go outside and see what the moon looks like close to being full. You'll get a sense of what a total solar eclipse sky might look like. And again, it's not going to be pitch black. Off to the edges, to the horizon, it might look a little brighter. You're looking out toward the outside of the darkest part of the moon's shadow. So the moon's shadow is above you at that point, racing over you at that point. And so this is what people want to see. You might see a dot. I don't know if you can see it on your end, but there's a dot in the sky over on the right hand side on this picture. There might be other things visible in the sky during totality, and those other things in this case are going to be Jupiter off to the upper left of the sun, and Venus to the lower right. Saturn and Mars and Mercury will also be there, hit or miss as to whether you'll actually see them. The sky just might be a little bit too bright for that. Who knows? Um, but the fact is there will be 5 planets in the sky during totality. So again, this is only for the totality, folks. So there is a way though that you can help yourself possibly see those planets a little more easily. Also, maybe seeing detail in the corona a little more easily. Let's go back to um, the fact that totality at most is a little over 4 minutes in length for this particular solar eclipse. That's not long enough for your eyes to get fully adjusted to the dark. So you may want to think about giving at least one of your eyes a little bit of help. And so bear with me. It's going to take a tiny bit of explanation. And I know I can visualize the looks on people's faces once you get to the end of what I'm going to tell you. Because some of you might think about doing this if you've got a little sense of adventure. What I'd like you to do if you're going to travel to totality is consider going to a party store or costume shop and getting a pirate eye patch. Now, if I say the name Blackbeard, all right, I'll give it a second, and I guarantee all of you are probably thinking, oh, Blackbeard, the pirate guy, long beard, curly hair, eye patch, sword, the whole bit, right? If I say any pirate's name, just say the word pirate, and what are you going to think of? Long hair, long beard, eye patch. Why did pirates wear eye patches? Is it because they always lost an eye in battle? Were they all that terrible of fighters that they lost an eye? No, that's not why pirates wore eye patches. It was very useful, as a matter of fact. Before the battle, which probably would happen during the day, the pirate would, and maybe some of the pirates' men, would put an eye patch on, maybe about half hour before they were going to swing over to the other ship and attack it. And that allowed that eye to slowly adjust to the dark. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes for your eye to adjust to the dark. Swing over to the other ship. Oh, they're probably going to have to go down below deck, right? Well, what is it like below deck? It's dark. You got all these guys down there trying to attack the pirates, and they've been in the dark in the below deck area for a while. Their eyes are adjusted. If the pirate just went down there in from full bright sunshine to dark deck hold, he wouldn't see anything. He'd get attacked. He wouldn't make it unless he switched the eye patch over to the eye that was in sunshine. Now this one is adjusted to the dark, and down below the hold, he can actually see what's coming at him. You can do this for the solar eclipse as well. I guarantee there's people sitting there going, oh, why didn't I ever learn that that's why pirates wear eye patches? That's exactly why pirates wear eye patches, to adjust an eye to the dark. And you can do that for a solar eclipse. You might see some diehard solar eclipse chasers, if there are any where you're going, doing the same thing. And because that gives an eye 20 to 30 minutes to adjust instead of 4 minutes. That might help you with those precious few minutes that you have to be able to see detail in the corona, see the other planets in the sky. It might help. Give it a thought. Give it a sense of, maybe I'll do this. If so, I want you to bling out that eye patch as much as you possibly can. Just make it as awesome as you possibly can. And I guarantee you'll be in everybody's pictures if you do that. All right. So getting back to totality, I digress. By the way, if that's the only part of this talk that you remember, I'll be okay with that. Right at the end of totality, You've got the moon starting to have some of the bright part of the sun appear, but the sunlight will shine through a particularly deep valley on the edge of the moon. And so that little spot will get brighter and brighter over the course of a few seconds. And so that's called the diamond ring effect. So you've got shadow bands before totality, Bailey's beads just before totality, the corona, the planets, all that fun stuff, pirate eye patches, the whole bit during totality, and then the diamond ring after totality. And so that's what everybody is getting all excited about. If you're wondering if you can look at either Bailey's beads or the diamond ring without solar glasses, by the way, you absolutely must look at totality without solar glasses. You have to, because if you wear your solar glasses during totality, you won't see it. Totality, the corona is only as bright as the full moon in the sky. It is not bright enough to get through your safe solar glasses. So you don't want to use those. You don't need sunglasses. You want just your eyeballs for looking at totality itself. For Bailey's beads, as long as you only look for maybe a couple of seconds, same thing with the diamond ring, couple of seconds, 1,000, 1,000, put your solar glasses back on. Or maybe about 2 seconds prior to totality, take the solar glasses off, check out Bailey's beads, just like 1,002. And if totality hasn't happened by then, just look down, just wait for totality, then you've got the full view and you're doing great. All right. So I'm going to stop, or actually I'm going to switch sharing to this website right here. For those of you traveling, or you're going to be in a different location other than the Chicagoland area, I'm going to show you a website that you might find really useful. All right. So I believe, actually, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I will just want to make sure. I'm never certain when I switch sharing that it's actually going to share the screen that I want. There we go. Okay, so we've got this website, timeanddate.com, timeanddate.com. I go to this website at least a few times a week. You want to go to the sun, moon, and space drop down, scroll down, April 2024 total solar eclipse. Click. Then, depending on where you're going to be, up here in the upper right-hand corner, you can put in your location. And actually, let me check the Q&A. I'm going to pick out where someone is going. Let me see. Murray, Kentucky. All right, let's look for Murray, Kentucky. So Murray, Kentucky. There it is. Now, make sure when you type in the city or the location that it's actually the state that you're going to be in. Many locations have the same names. So you want to look for the correct one. So making sure Murray, Kentucky, right here. Now, if you're going to look on this site prior to the lunar eclipse, the first thing that'll come up is the lunar eclipse. So you just want to scroll past that. Look at that, April 8th, 2024, total solar eclipse. Notice it says Murray, Kentucky, partial solar eclipse. This is going to be, they're going to be at, it looks like 98.5%. That's not 100%. So the person going to Murray, Kentucky, you're not far from the path of totality at that point. If you want to click on the map, let me click on the map over here. And let's look and see where Murray, Kentucky, whoops, sorry. Let me see where Murray, Kentucky is compared to the path of totality. So close. All right. So if you're going to Murray, just go to the northwest, get into that path. You're not that far away. So 98.5%, it's not 100%. So if you're going to stay there, you're going to see a partial solar eclipse at 98.5%. So that's where you want to be. All right. Let me check somebody else. Let's see. Lucas, Texas. Let's check out Lucas, Texas. So I'm going to go back here. Lucas. I've never even heard of Lucas, Texas. And division of Lucas. There we go. That should be it. Scroll down. Oh, there we go. I see the little total solar eclipse logo right there. All right, they're going to get totality for 3 minutes and 33 seconds in Lucas. And here are the actual timings for that specific location. So you want to scroll down, and this is given in a 24-hour clock. So 12:24 is when the eclipse starts, the partial eclipse. Totality begins 13:41, so that's 1:41 p.m. local time. 13:43 is the maximum. 13:45 is when totality ends, so 1:45 p.m. And the eclipse ends there at 3:03 p.m. Notice those times are sooner than for the Chicago area because Texas will see the shadow before we will. If you're going to be in a different time zone, remember that's where this site is really great for other time zones because the timing will depend on the time zone. So you want to pay attention to the times as they're listed here. And on this site, I love it because they're given in local time. So if you're going to be in Rochester, New York, or whatever, the times that are listed here are going to be the actual local time. You don't have to convert. So there we go. All right, I'm gonna, let's see, I answered that one. Up Carbondale, that's where I'll be. So that'll be a lot of fun. So let's do one more of these and let's go to Carbondale. I will be in the football stadium at Carbondale. So I hope whoever is going there, I hope to see you at the football stadium. It'll be a lot of fun. So scrolling down. So partial eclipse begins at 12:42. Totality begins at 1:59 and so on and so on. Now, one thing about this map that I showed you is not only does it have the little flag for where I just searched for, I can also click around the map and I can zoom in practically to the block level. So let's try this little town, this area right here. So wherever I'm clicking, I'm zoomed in so far that I'm pretty much at the block level for wherever this is. And over here on the left-hand side of the screen is the exact timing for that location. So not only can you look for a certain town, you can click around and get like close to somebody's house or close to the location where you're going to be, and that'll give you that exact timing. So that comes in really handy because sometimes the flag ends up, but maybe you'll be in a few miles outside of town or something like that. So that's where that'll be really handy for you. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing, and one last thing I want to show you is where to go and get information about safe solar glasses. I know that each of you is going to get a pair of safe glasses from the library. So I believe Valerie said that'll be available in a couple days. But what if you need to get more? What if you need to get some and you want to make sure they're safe, that they're legit, that they're not counterfeit? What you can do is you can go to eclipse.aas.org, the American Astronomical Society Eclipse page. Go to the eye safety dropdown. Second one, suppliers of safe solar viewers. Click, scroll. This whole list right here. Each one of these names is a link that will take you to the web store of the safe, legit solar glasses manufacturers, vendors, retailers, all of that. So these are the folks you want to buy from. I would highly recommend not purchasing from the website with the name of a big giant river and huge forest in South America, because there's no vetting that's done with anything that goes up on that site. There's just because a vendor might say, yeah, our glasses are safe, certified, legit, they may not be. And there's the overarching owner of that site is not checking for whether or not those glasses are legit. The way you know for certain is if you purchase from one of these sites. And the list is pretty long. If you're going to purchase, get them now, because they absolutely will run out the closer we get to the solar eclipse in April. And you want to give time to get them shipped to you as well. But explore folks on that site. So again, assume if you have already purchased from the website with the name of a giant river and rainforest in South America, that what you've purchased is counterfeit, unless you can match up that what you've purchased is one of these links, one of the actual links, if the legit company has a legit web store on that site. I was talking with someone last week and he said, oh, I just purchased wraparound solar glasses from that site. And how do I know that they said they were certified? They said they were legit. You don't know. You don't know for certain. The list on this page has been vetted by the American Astronomical Society, so you know for certain that these are okay and these will be safe to look through. So it did happen in 2017 that people did suffer eye damage. For the most part, as far as I know, the eye damage came about from people staring at the sun. Don't stare at the sun. Simple as that. You don't stare at the sun on any other day of the year. Don't do it for the eclipse either. Sunglasses and other things like that are not safe for looking at an eclipse. They're not blocking out nearly enough light. And also, what this safe solar glasses material blocks is infrared and ultraviolet light as well. That's the light that actually is going to cause damage if you're going to be looking at the sun. So you want to use the safe, legit stuff for looking at the sun. Do not use anything else that wasn't designed for looking at the sun. You're going to see all sorts of, oh, I don't need to use the safe glasses. Those are expensive. I have a potato chip bag at home. I can look through that. It's that same material. No, it's not. That material is just metallicized plastic, and it was not designed for looking at the sun. It might block out visible light, but it's still very likely letting in infrared and ultraviolet light. And that's the light where you're going to get a burn on your eye. The worst part about a burn for your eyeball is your eyeball, the back of your eye, does not have nerve endings. So you will not feel the burn until it's too late. So just get the legit stuff, use the list on the American Astronomical Society site, and therefore you have a better chance. If you're purchasing directly from these folks, that you will have a very enjoyable situation as long as it's clear out that day. By the way, for the safe solar glasses and solar viewers, if you've got it shaped like this, if you've got the actual glasses shaped, they're both exactly the same. The material is exactly the same. The key is the shinier metallic looking side is the side that faces to the sun. The darker side of the material is the side that faces your face. So shiny side faces the shiny thing in the sky. The shadow side is the side you want facing your face, and you want to be able to put it over your face, then look up at the sun, enjoy, look down, then take it away. All right, don't look up at the sun first and then put it over your face. And there's no difference between the glasses shape or this shape. It's just this one you hold, the glasses you wear. I personally like these because if I'm wearing glasses, I can hold this over my glasses. The actual solar glasses shape is sometimes hard to get in the right spot over your glasses, especially if you wear bifocals, progressives, that sort of thing. So getting something like this might be beneficial for folks who wear glasses. All right, let me check some of these questions and some places where folks are going. Let's see, going to Indiana, awesome. Indiana, in terms of our location up here, that'll be some of the closer areas. So off to the southeast is where you're going to get locations that are closer driving time. In Illinois, the closest locations are to the south. So there we go. So planning to go to Carbondale again. Awesome. I hope to see you. Southern Indiana. All right. Just make sure that where you're going is actually in the path of totality. So that's great. And Indiana went to Kentucky for the last one. I love it. You are an eclipse chaser who, if you saw 2017 eclipse and you're going to go see this one, you are officially an eclipse chaser. That's great. Okay. We've got, oh, Indianapolis. Fabulous. And oh, I've got a cat. Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, there he is. That's King Tux. So I knew it. I knew one of the little fuzzballs would show up. So thank you for letting me know. Okay. Oh, Fort Worth. Yes, Fort Worth, Texas for the eclipse. Fantastic. Love it. Well, now you know where to go, timeanddate.com, and you can get exact timing for your location. By the way, one thing I didn't mention was the timings on any of the prediction sites like Time and Date are within 3 or 4 seconds of accuracy. That's the most accurate that we can get. So within 3 or 4 seconds, but that's where it helps to know your timing as much as possible as he's looking directly at us on the camera. That's wonderful. Anyway, all right. Oh, in Waco, Texas. Excellent. I know there's a big thing going on there, put on by the Lowell Observatory, I think will be in Waco, Texas. Okay, so I've got a question. For stargazing, I've read that red light flashlights are best to not affect your eyesight. What's the best way to make your own homemade red light flashlight? Do you have a website you would recommend? Actually, you don't need a website. It's super simple. Go to the store or go to a store or go to Amazon or whatever, a place that sells red saran wrap cellophane. That's all you need. You can get fancier plastic than that, just any red colored plastic. And what imagine that this is my flashlight right here. Just what you'll do is you just want to put it over your flashlight. That's it. You can rubber band it to a flashlight. That's all you need to do. Nothing fancier than that. And if it's the red plastic wrap, which sometimes you see around holidays, you might see red color, blue, green, what have you. The red color is absolutely best. You might need a couple layers of it, especially if your flashlight is particularly bright. You may want to cut that down a little bit. But even you can get other kinds of red plastic, but just get something cheap, something inexpensive. You might only use like a foot of it for your flashlight. Well, then you have the rest of it to use for your dishes in your kitchen. So there you go. All right. Will the eclipse affect the camera? Yes. So thank you for saying that, for asking that question. So if you're planning on taking pictures, you will need to have a safe solar viewer for your camera as well. So the easiest way to do that is, and give me for a second, I need to go off camera for just a second. I need to grab something. I'm going in my bag right here, and you can enjoy seeing King Tux behind me. I'm sure he's very photogenic. All right, hang on, almost there. Okay, yep, he is sitting there. What you want to do is take your phone out of the case, and this is going to sound weird. If you can get 2 pairs of solar glasses, so get one from the library and purchase one, or get a safe solar viewer or what have you. I want you to take the solar glasses and I want you to tear it apart in half. And you can use this one to put over your lenses of your camera. You don't want to point your camera at the uneclipsed sun. You don't want to point your camera at the partially eclipsed sun. So you can take pictures, but it helps to take your camera. Sorry, I'm doing this. I've got a box on the screen with the Q&A, so I'm looking to one side. You want to take the phone out of its case because the case will move the filter away from your lenses a little bit, and you want to keep these over as flat on your lenses as you possibly can get. See that? So put it on, tape it on, leave it on. Okay. Then you want to, only during the partial phases of the eclipse, turn on the video setting on your camera. Somewhere in your settings, you may have to actually go into the app settings somewhere. You want to turn on HDR, high dynamic range. What that tells your camera is you've got a bright area on your screen, you've got a dark area on your screen. You want to tell your camera that's okay, that's all right. And so that way your camera won't go haywire, trying to figure out what's going wrong. It's used to having a range of light in a room, not something completely pitch black and something bright. So you want to put the solar viewer on, same thing, shiny side facing out, tape it on, video setting, HDR, turn on the video, take a recording for maybe 10 seconds. More than likely, one of those frames will have a nice image of the partial solar eclipse that you can grab. You just want to brace your hands, brace your arms so you're not shaking. So you can put your elbows on a fence or lean up against a tree or something, just so you're not shaking around. That'll help. All right. That's how you can do it. You might have to turn the brightness down of the image. And I have an iPhone. You tap, hold, and drag. So tap the sun, hold, and drag your finger across the screen, and that'll turn the brightness down. That should help also. All right, there you go. Oh, and I got a great compliment. Thank you so much, JR. All right. Any websites to introduce the total eclipse to kids in upper elementary school? Um, Actually, the time and date site has fairly easy to understand little articles about eclipses and simple diagrams and that sort of thing. The American Astronomical Society Eclipse website has a section with more explanations and things. It goes into more detail. So I would try just poking around the time and date site in the eclipses section and just grab a few of the articles and simple diagrams that are in there as well. The other option is, if I can put my employer hat back on. So the Adler Planetarium, we have a show that we call Sky Observers Hangout. It's live on YouTube, and it's on the Adler Planetarium's YouTube channel. We're going to be live on Sunday, April 7th at 7 p.m. on Adler's YouTube channel, and we're going to talk all about the eclipse. And explain what's coming up. So if you have an upper elementary school kid who likes to watch YouTube, they can watch us. If you're there with them, you want to send us some questions in the chat. We love questions. It's all live. If you miss it, it'll be recorded. It'll stay on the YouTube channel, so you'll be able to watch that as well. So hopefully that might be an option for you. YouTube.com/Adler Planetarium will be that one. All right. Any other questions? I'm gonna make sure there's nothing in the chat. I want to make sure I didn't forget anything. Nope. All right. Any other questions? Last chance. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you for your comment. All right. Valerie, anything you wanted me to go over that I forgot?
No, Michelle, it was perfect.
Thank
As I
you.
thought it would be.
Excellent. Well, good luck, everybody. And definitely explore the American Astronomical Society site. There's definitely more information there about how to take photographs of the solar eclipse. By the way, any of you traveling to totality, please consider not trying to take photos during totality. Mainly because, especially if this is your first totality, you're going to be fumbling with your camera. 4 minutes is going to go, or 4 minutes or less is going to go by in a flash. So please try not to take pictures during totality. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy the experience. There are so many professionals that put their pro photos online. You can purchase those after the fact. Their eclipse is what you're going to see, so it won't be different. But leave the photographing to the folks who have done it before many times. Just you enjoy being in the moment, especially with folks around you, or by yourself, depending on where you're going to be. And that's the best. That's the best advice I can give for, especially for newbie folks. So there we go.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. remember to stop by the information desk starting Wednesday to pick up your glasses. Just mention that you attended the Zoom tonight and you will get a free pair. Thank you, Michelle. Happy
Thank
viewing.
you. Thank you,
Right.
Valerie. Clear
Good night.
skies, everybody.
That's right. Hope for
Bye
clear
bye.
skies. Good night.